Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Harvey Levin here.
Jason Beckerman.
Eric.
Derek. Okay, so all roads lead to Kim Kardashian. She is a Helen of Troy, the modern version. Because we are going to talk about Pete Davidson, we're going to talk about Kanye West, we're going to talk about Julia, and they all have connections in some ways to Kim Kardashian. So we're going to start with, I want to start with Pete Davidson because he's showed
got the
up.
biggest connection.
Well, he's got the
He's got the direct connection right now.
Well,
I think biggest
is the right word.
Yeah.
So he was at the LA Kings game last night wearing Kings regalia, which is interesting because Pete Davidson is New York through and through.
He's a Staten Island guy. He was in a movie called The King of Staten Island. He is an SNL regular. He leans into New Yorkness a lot. He goes to a lot of Knicks games. You'll see him on the sidelines. But now he's ensconced himself in this LA celebrity life. He's at a Kings game up against the glass with his boys, decked out in LA Kings gear, which is blasphemous if you're a New Yorker. You know, you're a Rangers fan usually.
Why would that be?
He has taken it on full stride, right? He is now Kim Kardashian's boyfriend, and she is LA. She goes to every sporting event in LA, and he is now fully LA.
But that means he's the tail and she's the dog.
Well, is that a question?
I guess not. But,
Yeah.
but she is wagging away.
Yeah. No,
One time, Kim Kardashian is not the tail.
He's fully comfortable being the tail. It's wild.
Why wouldn't you be? I mean, and he honestly, funny to be such a New York guy. This seems like a fit. Like he seems like kind of that LA guy with like his tats and his bleached hair and like hanging out with his boys. Like he could be an LA dude.
Now, here's what I think might be interesting is I think there could be some backlash about his authenticity. If he leans too hard into this celebrity LA thing, part of Pete Davidson's appeal is that he is stuck close to his Staten Island roots and he's not a sellout and all this stuff. And now he's dating Kim Kardashian. He just goes full bore into being an LA guy. I'm not sure that's good for his brand.
I think he gets the pass because people in LA don't care about authenticity. That's not a big concern. People in New York are like, they do, but it's like, it's Kim Kardashian. Like, you know, like you get it.
We get it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do have a question. So what are the consequences for him? I agree with you. It's not about an LA thing. It's about a New York thing.
Yes.
That he's so identified with New York, but he's also a national celebrity. So does it matter, or is there something about being that kind of New York guy that's going to be problematic for him?
I think he's going to lose part of it. I mean, because Staten Island is associated with very few people. You've got the Wu-Tang Clan, and you got Pete Davidson. That's basically it. And the Wu-Tang Clan has stuck very close to it. They're also national celebrities, but if you talk to Method Man or you talk to any of those guys, they're Staten Island guys through and through.
But Pete Davidson has been very open about wanting to leave SNL at some point. Like he's not happy there. He talks about that all the time. When he leaves that, he's going to make movies, and he's going to do it in LA.
I wonder if he's less unhappy now that he's become the star of SNL. Because before, remember, he didn't have that many roles. Now, everybody wants to see Pete Davidson in the show.
He's also the draw. He's got leverage. He can do what he wants to do, which is he's in it very short periods of time. You know, he's only on for a few minutes a week. I think he's got it exactly where he wants. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, but there's nobody in our TMZ lifetimes who has ever had quite the come up that Pete Davidson has had. You can claim all the lack of authenticity you want if you're a New Yorker. The proof is in the pudding. He is all of a sudden, a year and a half ago, he was the strange guy who somehow married Ariana Grande or got engaged to Ariana Grande. Now he is one of the biggest stars in the world. So you can criticize the methods, but the results are unimpeachable.
Well, he needs something to back it up, though. He's a big star because of dating Kim, but he needs a hit movie. He needs a huge comedy special. There's got to be something career-wise to back that up. Otherwise, I don't think he wants to be famous just for dating people.
I got to say, speaking of, how do you think? I mean, just think about Kim Kardashian. You know, I understand that, her family owned the store and blah, 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 about whatever. But she was a clerk at a retail store. Now she makes movie stars.
She's a star maker.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
She was initially attached to Paris Hilton to become famous, and now she is the kingmaker. You're right. It's a wild
She was
transformation.
literally attached to Paris Hilton. The first time we saw her was walking in on Paris's arm.
Literally attached.
Yeah.
I've said it before and gotten criticism for it. She's other than presidents and popes, the most famous person in the world. And I think it's hard to argue with that. Everybody knows
who
her.
she is.
Everybody knows who she is, even though it's hard to define who she is.
And has an opinion about her.
Yeah,
you love
right.
her or you hate her, but nobody's like, bleh.
Yeah.
Okay, this sounds just insane, and I think I know the answer. But if you did an international poll about who do you know more, who do you recognize more, Kim Kardashian or Jill Biden?
Jill Biden? Oh, Kim Kardashian.
Kim Kardashian by a country mile.
I think the four of us at this table would
but
pick
that's
Kim
Joe,
Kardashian.
Joe Biden would pick Kim over Jill. That's not a question.
He's probably got a picture of Kim in his wallet.
I thought it was you, Jill. Just comes up behind her.
Okay.
Oh, you'd soon learn.
Oh my God. Eric, that's the best. Okay. Let's now go to Kanye West, who is dating Julia Fox. And there are a lot of people who think, okay, that's fantastic. He's moved on. And there are other people who think he didn't move on at all. He is trying to send messages to Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, he's building a doll. He's building a Kim 2.0.
Well,
That's
It
unfair
seems-
to put.
I don't know that that's that unfair.
No, I
That's-
think it's right on the nose.
Okay. I mean, what is he doing, Harvey?
Okay, so Julia gave an interview to Interview Magazine. And
place.
she is talking about just Kanye West being the best boyfriend ever, right?
They've had 2 dates in less than a week, and he took her to a play, to dinner where he staged a photo shoot, then took her back to the hotel where he had a whole suite of clothes set out for her, and or suit of clothes, and had a whole dress-up thing. And then they rolled around and made out on the floor, which sounds like fun and spontaneous, except there are pictures of it.
yeah.
And they're not selfies.
to go with the
Yeah,
dating.
so he brought a camera crew with him from the restaurant to the hotel and photographed making out on their second date. That's weird.
This doesn't
And that's what she's talking
and she
about.
goes, oh, it's like Cinderella. It's every girl's dream come true.
Do you think, honestly, he produces an agenda, like a one-pager that he hands to her at the beginning of everything? Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk in. There's going to be cameras there. There's going to be Balenciaga laid out on the bed. You're going to slowly get dressed, but then I'm going to walk in, and then they're going to film us rolling around on the floor for a while. It almost seems completely scripted.
But I don't think what you're saying is specific to Kanye or even the Kardashians at this point. I think that is the nature of celebrity these days, which is that
Wow.
you chronicle everything.
Oh, that's
that-
not even celebrities. Normal people.
Yeah.
Right.
It's Charlie Neff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
I have
no,
lots
no.
of friends. I know what they had for dinner. I know what they watched on
But
TV.
I
But
guess
this is
it's
different.
It's the pre-planning that this seems all pre-planned. It
Right.
does not seem to be, hey, we're just going to film whatever happens to happen. It's here's what's going to happen. We're going to film it, and we're almost producing a television show, or we're producing content at every stage.
But does that seem like the start of a real relationship? I look at Kim and Pete. They seem like they're starting a relationship. They're getting to know each other. They go on vacation. Yes, we get shots of them as well. But what Kanye did is like Pretty Woman. It's like out of a movie, laying
Yeah.
clothes on the bed, rolling around in photo shoots. That doesn't seem to me like the start of a relationship. That seems to me like he's trying to play the game of I've
Yes.
well,
you know,
that
yes.
he wants her to know.
I've gone
He
on
wants her
as
to
well.
see it. He wants to make her jealous.
Yes.
It seems like it's still all about Kim.
Well,
like when Kim went with Pete, the first time we saw them was when they went to the movie theater in Staten Island. There are pictures because she's Kim Kardashian. There's going to be pictures, but she didn't bring a camera crew. She didn't go to a very public, famous place. Kanye brought a camera crew with him to document and post. And how is she already doing interviews with magazines about somebody she's dated for a week?
Wow. So what you're saying is Kim Kardashian leads kind of a candid private life.
No,
Wow.
but compared to
Dignity.
this,
Wow.
she didn't bring a crew with her. At least.
She is a shrinking violet who likes to stay in the background.
And when the camera's got her, she's like, oh, no.
But still, like the cameras are going to find her because
Yes.
she is
No,
who
no,
she
your-
is.
your point is
and it would
absolutely
happen
right.
with Kanye too, except not in the hotel room while they're
Right.
making out.
So why is Julia going along for the ride? I guess the obvious answer
Because
is
now
he's
we know her
Kanye
name.
West.
Well, she-
but
Well,
Do you need a
Because-
second
yeah,
answer
when,
to
when
that?
you're this much of a pawn in a game where it feels like you are just being used to shove in Kim Kardashian's
we just
face,
talked
do you want
about
to be part
the
of that?
come up that Pete Davidson had from dating
Yeah.
Kim. Julia Fox wants that. Now we know she's not just the girl from Uncut Gems anymore.
Well,
she's
but
Julia
This is
Fox.
so gross.
but-
This is so instrumental using people in these
Derek, I'm
ways.
surprised you're saying this.
Yeah.
Because you know they. Well, first of all, I don't know. This could be real with them too. I mean, I absolutely think this could be real. I mean, she's this beautiful, incredible actress, and
Yeah. Oh, it's
In
true.
the sense
so
of what
it,
is
it-
real.
it
yeah.
could totally be real. But the fact that you're saying if it's not, how could this be? Look at the history of Hollywood. This was managed this way in Hollywood,
Yeah.
where they would pair people together
Yeah.
for decades. So I don't know why you're thinking this is so surprising.
You're right. I guess it's as old as Hollywood, right?
I
They
mean,
put
Robert
Mickey
Pattinson
Rooney
and Kristen Stewart.
Yeah.
But every
Yeah.
people do movies together. It was
I-
Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone
I
dated
think
all of them.
what might be slightly different here is that Kanye is the A-list of the A-list. He's one of the most biggest stars in the world, and he seems to be specifically coordinating this and curating it and turning it into what it is.
This is not Louis B. Mayer saying, "Hey,
Right.
Judy Garland date Mickey Rooney," and you don't know whether they're in on it.
Right.
This is Kanye
Well,
West.
right, but the difference-
yeah, he is the
No,
orchestrator.
But,
He's
but,
the choreographer of his own dance.
The difference is that actors were just actors before. Now they have brands. And when you have a brand, it's like you're the studio head because you're the head of your own brand. And that's why I think it's different. And that Kanye, in a way, is like Louis B. Mayer because he's managing his own brand. And I think a lot of stars do that right now.
Yeah.
Boy,
Wow,
he's got
we've
a
come a
weird
long
way
way.
of branding his, making his own brand. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He is creating everything that surrounds him. He is creating a motion picture that we're watching in real time. It's just,
I think you're right. He's
What's
like,
the Jim Carrey movie?
Truman Show.
It's Truman Show.
Yes,
But except he's the director.
Yeah,
Yes.
Right.
right.
I'm the director. I'm the star. I'm doing the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like,
And he
It
can't
sounds
next
exactly
be-
like
that's
Kanye.
Kanye,
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, let's move to. I want to do a dual thing here. Antonio Brown and Novak Djokovic.
I thought we were going to be dueling.
No.
Could turn into that.
And so Antonio Brown, it turns out right before the episode where he ran off the field, he interacted with a fan who wanted a certain type of autograph.
Yeah.
Signing his vaccine card. That is so loaded. And he did it. He did it. And it's like, when you start looking at what's going on right now, I mean, it is aggressively anti-vax, mocking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just aggressive.
Well, it comes
and
directly on the-
Djokovic, too.
Yeah. Well, obviously, the Antonio Brown situation comes directly on the heels of him being suspended for 3 weeks for submitting a fake vaccine card. He had doctored a vaccine card. He hadn't been vaccinated, and instead he presented one to the NFL showing that he had been, which gets him out of all the COVID protocols. And then he meets a fan on the field who asks for an autograph, and he gleefully signs this person's vax card, which is thumbing his nose at the NFL. It's thumbing his nose at Roger Goodell. And then at the same time, you have Novak Djokovic down in Australia thumbing his nose at Australian authorities by, what did he do? Did he concoct a medical rationale for
We
not
don't
being
know.
able to?
Nobody's saying, but I think the bigger thing is who gave him this waiver?
Yeah.
Who gave him this waiver?
Antonio Brown. He signed it.
Yeah.
The Australian Open did. But what did they submit
Well, we
to
know
the Australian
we
Open?
know their motivation in that,
Yeah,
right?
to have him there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's
the
big
number
money.
one star.
And he's
big
defending
money.
the title. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is it? And that's what is so weird. This is now beyond Djokovic.
Yeah.
Now it's about how seriously are big organizations like Australia. I mean,
Yeah.
Organization.
I mean, it doesn't get a bigger organization than a country.
I mean, but
It's Australia, though.
But the prime minister is outraged at this. And I just think the tennis association, just the fact that they've given him this, because he has really been anti-vax, it's a fair question to say, I guess you can look at it two ways. One is, look, it's nobody's business what his medical issue is that prevents him from doing it. And then the other side of it is, but wait a minute. I mean, the guy's been anti-vax. It just seems like there's something up here and nobody's saying what it is.
Right. It seems, if you look at it logically, that the Australian Open wanted him there, and so he presented whatever claim. He self-attested to the fact that he had a medical condition which prevented him from being vaxxed. That was good enough for them. Politically, it got a little entangled, and so the prime minister comes out and says, no, we're going to look at the medical evidence to say whether it actually supports the waiver. And he either didn't present that, refused to present it, or when he did present it, it just didn't stand up to
But
it.
at the time we're doing this right now, it looks like he's going to be booted from the country.
Yeah. Not going to play in the Australian Open over
Australia doesn't mess around.
Australia doesn't mess
they
around.
don't.
Yeah.
America, on the other hand, I mean,
Right.
we are not handling it the way they are.
I
No.
completely agree. Would he play in the U.S. Open? I think absolutely, right? I mean, I think the Australian Prime Minister has drawn such a firm line. In America, when these practicalities come up against the public health concerns, there's a little yield. There's a little bit. Like Kyrie Irving is now playing again.
Yeah,
you know,
but he is, but he's not
only
playing
on-
in New
only
York,
away
right?
games.
And
You're
that's the difference we have at state by state. Because if it was the U.S. Open, that was the example we gave. That's also played in New York. I don't know that you would. I mean, it's outside. it's
But
different,
Jason, what's interesting about that is with Aaron Rodgers, who didn't get the vaccine, he said it was because he was allergic, and people said, okay. So I don't know that they would just say okay in Australia. We're saying okay here. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying we shouldn't say okay. I'm
Yeah.
just saying we handle it differently.
Yeah.
And it's
here
odd
the
also that
country-
it was the Australian Prime Minister who came out and said something. Could you imagine any president getting involved over an athlete performing in a competition like that?
I could imagine a previous president,
prior
one
president.
past.
No,
Yeah.
but I mean, like to make an official statement, like you're not allowed in the country because of blah blah blah. Like,
You couldn't imagine that with Donald Trump?
no, Trump would try and get like a tweet about it or something. But for the president to be like, no, I'm going to interfere in this and prevent this from happening for the safety of the country, I can't see any American president officially getting involved to stop an athlete.
You know who would do it? I think Prime Minister Trudeau.
Probably.
I think he would probably do it.
These, I have to say, Canada and Australia are smaller and more easily governable in these kinds of situations. There's more of a consistency of thought. I mean, not to say that there are not, voices, contrary voices throughout those countries, obviously incredibly intelligent population, whatever. But we have 350 million people here, and we are
deeply divided.
Deeply
50-50
divided,
almost. Yes.
yeah. And it's a harder thing to accomplish here.
Yep.
Okay, so two other quick things. One is, I don't want to make this necessarily quick because it's important. So yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the insurrection. We had Adam Kinzinger on TMZ Live and asked him about something that I think is not getting enough attention. Everybody is talking about the stakes in 2024, and it's certainly something we should be talking about. But I think you've got to get specific. What if, the irony to this is Donald Trump has falsely been saying, that the election was stolen from him. We know that's not the case. The irony to it is that he and his, people have set this thing up with secretaries of state, trying to get certain secretaries of state elected all over the country, changing state legislatures, so that if he runs in 2024, he could steal the election because they will just say he won even if he lost. And that, to me, could be the turning point of democracy.
Sounds like the death of democracy.
It's the end of America.
If you can steal an election in the United States by implanting your own cronies as secretaries of state to disavow what happens in the vote, that's no longer democracy.
And if he can get away with it, what does that say about the future of this country? That's what we asked Adam Kinzinger. Here's what he said.
I'm really worried. It's really easy to show up and vote for a presidential election. There is importance in showing up and voting in midterms, in voting in local elections, which we're all not great at voting in, like mayor's elections. But all of those is where they're targeting now, people that vote count, that certify, secretaries of state, which usually get no attention. I would encourage everybody to be focused on that. That's one of the things with my Country First movement, country1st.com, we're focused on is not just congressional races. Yeah, those are important, but the down ballot races where the real bulwark of democracy lies. Nobody imagined, I never certainly imagined, that what we took for granted, which is just how the law functions, could actually be a threat, but it really is.
So, I should say it's Congressman Adam Kinzinger. I was
Republican Congressman.
Republican Congressman. Right. It was interesting because when I watched yesterday, the only two Republicans on the floor of the House were Liz Cheney and her dad, Dick Cheney. And I wondered, where's Adam Kinzinger? And this is after we did the interview with him, found out that he would have been there. He's about to have a baby. Oh. So that's why he wasn't there. But I got to say, it is that, to me, those are the stakes. That's what we should be talking about.
And here's what's terrifying to me is those midterm numbers, the voting turnout for elections of secretaries of state and sort of down ballot positions are always very low. So it's not only that democracy could die, it's that people don't really care enough. He's laying out a roadmap to turn out and vote on these things. My guess is that people won't. The numbers will be very low, and Trump will actually put in place a lot of people that he likes, and it'll just happen. It's not as if we don't see the peril coming, right?
Yeah, it's terrifying, obviously, for democracy, for our country.
It is really terrifying because
but who cares? How do you mobilize
and whether
people to care?
Some people don't care because it's the party they like, or people who want Trump back in.
That's right.
That's irrelevant because it's not always going to be that.
Right.
And then they can just install whoever they want.
And those people are motivated to go pull off the trickery, right? They want to go vote and put in the people that
and like the down ballot elections, it usually turn out significantly lower than presidential. But we have seen, and this is one thing you have to give Trump, people got more involved. I mean, record turnout, even like on these smaller elections, people now are paying more attention and following what's happening. And we'll see what happens with it. But I mean, Trump has in 2020 had the second highest popular vote ever.
Right.
It wasn't as much as Biden, but still it shows that's how many people got motivated to get out and vote.
Well, it was also a presidential election. And I think the point is that without a presidential election, it's hard to inspire people. The reality is secretaries of state could hold the future of democracy in their hands. It's hard to understand that because most people don't understand what a secretary of state does.
Right.
And that's the problem here, is that they are holding democracy in their hands right now. This is a really serious thing we should be thinking about.
It is. And beyond just the end of democracy, our whole system falling apart, it could literally be the end of America, because it's not hard to imagine that if, 2024, Trump loses but is installed as president, a lot of states are going to secede. Like, I think that could actually happen. It's like, you don't think like California and certain states would be like, nope, this is not our country anymore. We're
what
done.
an uplifting note, Eric.
Well, I mean,
it's
it's
not
true.
even-
I mean,
don't
It's not
discount
even
what
the
he's
secession; it would be the violence that would result as in the event of the coup d'état. That's and then the secession.
The country falls apart,
and the country falls apart. I mean, you hate to be too alarmist, because it seems like it's impossible this could happen in this day and age when we're so sophisticated.
but January
compared to
6th
were.
seemed impossible.
But January 6th seemed impossible. It doesn't. It seems less and less impossible all the time.
The only thing I would say is it would be the counter coup d'etat, because installing him if he loses is the first coup d'etat.
Yes, that's right.
The counter
it's
coup.
the two d'etat.
Day 2 did.
It is frightening. Okay, we just gotta hats off to Sidney Poitier. He died, and boy, I'm just thinking, I'm old enough. Growing up, 1967 was the most incredible year for Sidney Poitier. Watching this, and it didn't even occur to me that, look at these movies that came out. I mean, To Sir with Love, In the Heat of the Night, Mr. Tibbs, all 1967.
Guess who's coming to dinner?
Guess who's coming to dinner?
I mean, it was when Hollywood turned from old Hollywood stuffy to kind of new Hollywood. These movies stand up. They deal
Guess
with
who's
modern
coming
issues.
to dinner
Yeah.
completely dovetails with the civil rights movement, and he was such a civil rights activist.
It was the first great movie I ever saw, the first movie I ever loved. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? It impacted me from the way I watched cinema and how I appreciated actors, and he was one of the all-time greats. And in that movie, if anybody hasn't seen it, I can't encourage you enough. It is, I think, one of the most brilliant movies ever made from beginning to end, and his performance is the shining light of it.
Also, let's not forget, years before that, 1963, he was the first black man to win an Academy Award for Best Actor. And I mean, that's before.
It was unthinkable.
You know,
before.
1963, like the civil rights movement was just really in full swing then, and he won Best Actor and was the last one for decades.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one word, it's elegant.
Yes, that's what we live in, a world of Logan Pauls and Jake Pauls, and he was so honestly, it's like he was a man from another era, and he was so dignified throughout his life. I mean, we've gotten him all the time out, and he always carried himself, stiff-backed, walked upright, very respectful all the time, and it's a lost sort of art.
The man of the graphic tee, respecting the well-dressed.
I know.
I'm part of the new problem.
You are. Okay, guys. Have a good weekend. We will see you Monday.